Hi, everybody, and welcome back to EBNet Stream. Today, I'm privileged to interview who I consider to be a really good friend, but also one of the industry's very seasoned professionals, Bonga Mokoena, who's the Group Chief Executive Officer at BDO South Africa. And yeah, I'm interested in unpacking his career, some of his lessons he's learned in this exec meet and greet. So welcome to EBNet Stream, Bonga.
Thank you, Natalie, and thank you so much, and thanks for this interview.
Let's get started by unpacking a little bit about what you do. So let's start there. What is it that you do all day?
Yeah, no, what I do all day, it's just from a BDO South Africa perspective, is really just to make sure where we are and in our journey as a player in our professional services space, being, professional accountants and auditors, and in terms of our value proposition, being, a professional service provider in the tax, audit and assurance and advisory, and business services outsourcing. So it's important that, for me to just understand where we are and where we stack up in terms of the players. And we'll be celebrating 3 years since I've been in BDO South Africa, and it's been good going in the sense that we're elevating ourselves. First and foremost, BDO for me is a good platform that really we're clear about our high purpose. Our high purpose is about people. It's about people helping people achieve their dreams. Our colleagues, our training accountants, our audit managers or managers in the different parts of our businesses, be it in tax, be it in advisory, our associate directors, our directors and our partners, and equity partners, I must say, they are people where they've got dreams and aspirations. And as BDO as a firm, we're about joining hands with each and every one of those to make sure that they make their dreams and aspirations a reality. Our clients are people, but ultimately South Africa, we are a player not just in the profession, in accountants and auditing profession, but we are a player in the ecosystem, and that's the South African economy. That ecosystem is made up by a number of players. As professional accountants and auditors, we make a contribution, and that ultimately talks to whether we're growing as economy or not growing enough. We know the challenges and the headwinds we have from a country perspective, and we make an indirect contribution in terms of that because we contribute towards the confidence and the trust that we have in the numbers, how the business are performing, and ultimately that talks to the stats, that talks to like GDP, but ultimately that impacts on the society at large. So our brand proposition and offering or promise or ethos is about elevating people, elevating business, and elevating society. So I make sure on a day-to-day basis that we do make our impact when we engage with our colleagues internally, when we engage with our clients, when we engage in the economy. And that's what inspires me. And that's what I do. I make sure that even our plans, short term, medium term, long term, they talk to that, not just commercial returns, not about just that. Yes, it's part of that, but there's a much more bigger purpose that drives us. So from where I sit, I work together with my colleagues across all, and I'm using the word deliberate, colleagues across all levels to make sure that we make the impact. We contribute. We hold our own in terms of how we are ranked. Is not just about top line revenue. It's not about how many we are. Yes, we do kind of like, hold our own in terms of those stats, but it's far much more important is more about the contribution and the impact we are making in the broader ecosystem. So that's what I do on a daily basis.
Lovely. As you were talking, I was kind of thinking about your journey that your career would have taken. So let's start with kind of the starting with your studies. What got you started into this profession? Because I don't think it's just anybody who loves balancing their debits and credits. And from that studies all the way through to where you are now, what motivates you or inspires you to get out of bed every morning?
It's a very, very profound question that you've just raised, Natalie, but it's amazing. Isn't that our lives, all of our lives as individuals and collective, they're about a story. If in our journey of life, we are about the story. There's a story that we are writing every day, right? Which means we have to be purpose driven. There's a higher purpose for a reason, that talks to our reason for being. What is our higher purpose? Ultimately, is about the story that to not only bring meaning to us as individuals, but bring meaning to the general good, to many people, right? Because we don't live for ourselves. We live for our family members, we live for our friends, but we live for general good. We're supposed to make an impact. And that's why I talked about BDO, we're about impact, right? So what inspired me as a person, and I will tell you in terms of my profession, many people just understand professional accountants and auditors from a limited, sort of like perspective that we're about numbers. But yet, that's partly the truth. But the complete truth is that the numbers tell the story. We're talking about the economy is growing or is not growing, like it's about numbers. We actually make our contribution to those numbers. Whether they're credible, those numbers can be relied upon. Now, when coming back to the retirement fund space, about people like having a comfortable retirement space and phase, or investors like, allocating their monies, and in terms of the investment policy statements, or in terms of like, what their objectives are, they want to invest in businesses where they've got confidence in terms of the leadership, and confidence in terms of whatever those numbers are. Those numbers tell a story. So my love for being an accountant and an auditor is because numbers tell a story. And it's important, it is an art to make sure that those numbers are credible, those numbers can be relied upon, those numbers, they are worth the confidence of many people who wants to rely on those numbers to make informed decisions. Okay, because we talk about, making informed decisions, right? That talks to credibility, talks to trust. So we are significant contributors to trust in terms of understanding those numbers and the story behind the numbers and what makes those numbers more credible. And then we start talking about audit procedures, and you've obtained appropriate, sufficient information to express an opinion as an auditor and about the numbers, so that users of financial statements, users of information. In fact, I want to go beyond just financial statements, but also like there's different reports. There's financial information, but there's non-financial information. And how do we rely? What is the basis? What gives us the confidence to be able to rely on those numbers? Do we understand the stories that's behind those numbers, so that then we can make informed decision one way or another? So that's what inspires me every day, because I touch many lives. If you ask me, Natalie, and I think will be known to many of our people in the financial services space, be it in the investment or retirement fund space, I've spent a number of years there. What inspired me then, and in that sector, inspires me in the sector I'm in now. I was in that sector. It was about people, based on how we're involved, as like investment consultants, or as actuaries, or as retirement funds like consultants. It was about how you touch the lives of many people. The many employees who are employed in the different, sectors in the broader economy. But similarly, where I'm in now, I'm back in the profession, in the accountants and auditing profession. I'm still inspired by the fact that I touch the lives of many people, directly or indirectly. We like public interest, entities. We deal with those in the main, but even from smaller entities, medium-sized entities that are not listed on JSE, they also, like, you've got shareholders. They want, sort of like the numbers that talks to their businesses and their performance. There has to be credibility behind those. So we impact souls. We impact millions and millions of people, directly and indirectly. And for me, that defines the higher purpose of what drives me, what inspires me on a day-to-day basis, but also why I'm in the profession that I'm in.
It's so inspiring to listen to you, and being the kind of custodian of trust, which is a pretty profound position to be in. If you think, if in a retirement fund context, the kind of approved, as the Hardy dials flow over, the kind of approved signed off financial statements is kind of everybody's, I'm going to say, yeah, custodian of truth and goalkeeper of trust, I suppose. So it's a pretty profound profession, and calling that you have. Yet before we started recording for this interview, you used the term professional skepticism. How do you marry that kind of personality that you need to have, with this aspirational kind of goal that you have as a human?
100%. Good question as well. Professional skepticism, what is it? In the accountants and auditors sort of profession, it's about you engaging in what we call stand back, and you just take a fresh look at whatever the numbers or whatever piece of what is reported, and you look at it and just simply says, is it complete, or is there something that we are not seeing that might be embodied in those numbers or in what is being reported? It's in the generic space. It's all about risk management. Risk management is about skepticism. Okay, in our profession, we call it professional skepticism. But if you are a member of the board of trustees or a member of the board of directors, right, or a member of the executive committee in any company, be it the CFO, be it the CEO, actually it's incumbent upon you to have a certain level of skepticism. And it's not negative. I know skepticism sounds negative, but it's more around, have you sat back and reflected to say, is this complete? And I know when I was a member of the board of trustees of AFRF, and from my days in, Alex Forbes, which was Alexander Forbes then, but it's Alex Forbes now. And many times on oft, as board of trustees, as individuals collective, whether through the ordinary subcommittee or like the board of trustees, we needed to actually practice, and bring to bear skepticism and looking at numbers and looking at, reports, and basically begin to ask questions from different angles. That's what skepticism is all about. And when people are kind of, always engaged in this process of standing back and asking questions, say, we've looked at this. Is there something that is not actually like included here, or is it something that actually is not reflected in this? That's what professional skepticism is about. But it is a regulatory requirement in our profession that you need to demonstrate that when you're completing your audit procedures, you sit down, you stand back, and then bring to bear the professional skepticism and document why you then reach a particular conclusion and then express an opinion one way or another that is fit for purpose. That's what professional skepticism is all about. It's just another way of just saying, like, sit back, do a completeness check, and do a risk assessment or evaluation before then you reach a conclusion. I mean, as an investor, you need to due diligence. You need to then also exercise, and bring to bear skepticism of some sort before you then commit to buy a particular share or pick up a particular share as part of your investment. That's just what it is. So there's nothing new. It's just that the terminology almost makes it more applicable in the profession that I'm in. We call it professional skepticism. But that's actually risk assessment and doing a completeness in terms of risk assessment. Isn't that some of the things go wrong in some companies because the board of directors or board of trustees are not bringing to bear adequate or sufficient skepticism in the reports that are put before them, that they miss certain things, and only later on for the things to emerge and the questions are asked, where was the board? Where was the board of trustees? Where were executive management? Where was the, where were people who are charged with fiduciary responsibilities in the best interest of the ultimate beneficiaries or members, if it's a retirement fund, or shareholders, if it is, a listed entity, that's what skepticism is all about. All of us, I think, even in our personal lives, there are certain decisions that you have to actually just stand back and bring to bear skepticism in evaluating and reaching a conclusion one way or another.
I love this phrase, professional skepticism. I'm going to pinch it from you and use it in some of our material on EBNet. But onto a little bit more personal journey experiences or life experiences that you might have had, what is the most important lesson that you have learned in business?
It's the important lesson. Number one is actually, just moving away from the professional destination and so on and so forth. But it's in, it's all about being leaders without a title.
Mm.
And I find it difficult to separate leadership from, serving or being of service. Of course, you get rewarded accordingly, but when you are a leader and you serve, you are accountable. So it's accountability, leadership, lead in whatever you are doing. And lead means being accountable, being responsible. Lead is also about being sort of like, showing up in the most optimal way, because you're then leading in terms of that. You set yourself apart, or you aspire to do the best and to bring to bear the most optimal that can be in that given, and that's leading. And it's just beyond just leadership as we in a limited fashion, sort of like, confine the definition of being a leader. So being a leader is actually being being of service, or being a servant, and that wants to do, the best and deliver the best for the benefit that goes far beyond yourself. It's about impacting the broader good, be people, be it, of course, I've said like people, business, society. That's what leadership is all about. And that's, for me, is the lesson that I have really embraced and that inspires me. And, for as long as I have energies to apply myself in whatever given environment, it's about making sure that you show up in a manner that is leading, in a manner that is example, because being a leader, being exemplary, is being exemplary. So we need to lead. We are called upon to be exemplary. We're called upon to be of service and to impact as many, far much more beyond ourselves. And being a leader also calls upon us, like understanding that there are cases where you have to decrease for more other people to actually get the benefit of your role as of being of service, of being a servant. So, and some people will tell you about writers of leadership will tell you about servant leadership. I find it difficult to separate a person who actually leads from service and from impact. So impact is really the issue, and that's, for me, the greatest lesson, and that's a lesson that inspires me.
I'm going to take a leaf out of your book now and apply my professional skepticism over. I'm going to overlay it over your answer, and say to you, sure, servant leadership is definitely very motivating and very inspiring, but leaders are also called on to make some really tough and ruthless decisions. And perhaps you could share with us what has been your biggest challenge or the toughest decision you've had to make as a leader.
Sure. I don't want to get into specifics, but one thing that I respect about decision making is that you need to have a sense of comfort and conviction about decisions that you have to take. And a number of decisions have to be tough, in fact, are unavoidably tough, and may impact people to a varying degree and differently to a varying degree. But as long as in the decision, whatever decision you're taking, while it may affect one or two people, but if it affects the majority, in a better manner, or it enhances the majority, and then so be it. So decision making calls upon you getting to a point where you make an informed decision, and there's highest level of conviction. You can demonstrate that the decision is going to be more beneficial to many, and then that's the right decision to. But it goes without saying that there are instances where you make decisions that may affect one or a few people, like not in an optimal manner, not in a positive manner, but unfortunately, like if the right decision has to be made for the benefit of the many, and then so be it, and that's a reality that goes with decision making. So as much as I may sound like that like kumbaya, and tough decisions are made, and make those tough decisions, and I've made tough decisions, and that affect people one way or another. But in the main, I'm comfortable that many of the decisions I've made, have affected many people in a positive way, and that's what inspires me.
Lovely answer. I'm gonna wrap up our chat today by asking something a little bit more personal. I know that you have children, and our kids. I also have kids, and them growing up and studying and getting themselves qualified is quite a roller coaster. If you could give your kids one piece of career advice, what would it be?
It's about them making right choices about what they are passionate about, but that their careers and decisions have to always consider how they're going to impact the lives of many in a different way. Because for me, that's the basis of my passion. And in terms of my career decisions, it's about, how is it the right platform? Is it the right career for me to be put in a position where I can impact, many lives, so to speak, beyond myself, because I'm also life, right? But beyond self. It starts with self, but understand that once it's about you, but it's more about others. And that for me is the base of passion. So that's the conversation. My kids will tell you that, I never finish my conversation about how is this going to make a difference in the world we find ourselves in your lifetime, because the journey of life, your career journey is part and parcel of your life journey. So how is your journey of life going to impact more? Because it's about impacting more than just beyond yourself.
Bonga, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to chat to me this afternoon. It's been great catching up, and I look forward to ongoing conversations with you and catching up with you in the near future. Thanks so much.
Lovely. It's my pleasure, Natalie, and you keep well. We'll chat again.